Hedera recently made a post confirming how indeed they are going to be attending SIBOS in Miami. Now, what does SIBOS even stand for originally? Stands for Swift International Banking Operations Seminar. And it's actually organized by Swift, by the way. So we gotta let that sink in. Hedera is going to be there from September 28th to October 1st. And I'll talk about why I think this could impact Hedera moving forward, even though I am not telling anyone to do anything and nothing I say is financial advice. This is just my personal review. Now, if we take a look at it, this event right here, I think could impact Hedera a lot, just because this event is pretty impressive in terms of the scale of it. We have to consider this event, right? Or should I say SIBOS? It actually started in 1978 in Brussels, Belgium, with only about 300 participants at the time. But of course, it's grown ever since then. Case in point, let's take a look at last year's SIBOS, so to speak. It actually occurred in Frankfurt, Germany, and I've actually been to Frankfurt twice, by the way. But besides that point, that event actually had over 12,500 participants from over 160 countries with over 200 exhibitors and with over 700 speakers. So we gotta let that sink in. This is pretty massive. And even if we take a look at it back in 2023, it happened in Toronto in Canada. It had over 9,000 participants. And the year before that, in 2022, it actually occurred in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, which had over 10,000 participants. We don't exactly know how many people are going to be at the one in Miami this year. But again, if we're taking a look at just those previous figures right there, clearly, approximately probably 10,000 participants are going to be there, right? Just based off of, again, the previous SIBOSes, so to speak. And this could indirectly be a good marketing, I think, thing for Hedera, just because some of their projects out there, they're going to try to market themselves through a celebrity or through an athlete. However, through this, I think it's arguably a lot more effective because the individuals that are going to be attending SIBOS anyways, they're going to be a little bit more in the know when it comes to this space. So they're going to be a lot more familiar as to what something like Hedera could be, right? Or what it is, I should say. Now, people will tell me though, well, SIBOS has this very like global trade and finance aspect to it. What does Hedera know about that? We have to consider this SIBOS in Miami is going to have a theme, arguably, of AI, right? At least a part of it. And that combined with the historical vibe of SIBOS having this global trade and finance aspect to it, I think this actually fits quite in line with Hedera, which may sound kind of bizarre, but I actually do think so. Let me explain why. First of all, Hedera has an aspect of ISO 20022. You know, a lot of people sometimes don't consider this, but Hedera actually has that. Now, people like to say, well, it doesn't matter though. Well, why would it not matter? It matters for Stellar, right? It matters for Ripple. How come it doesn't matter here suddenly? It doesn't make sense. I think it does matter because having an aspect of ISO 20022, that is often like considered the crowning achievement for a lot of projects out there that are focused on global trade and finance. So inherently, I think it does matter too when it comes to Hedera. Hedera may not have that historical sort of notoriety in a sense where we don't automatically think about it as this project that's focused on global trade and finance, but I actually think that the more I take a look at it a little bit deeper, I should say, I think it arguably does, just because, again, it has an aspect of ISO 20022. Now, what is that, right? Again, you know, I'm going to have to say this, even though I've already said it a couple times, but ISO 20022, that's currently being used for inter-organizational data exchange for many institutions out there in this world, right? So it does matter a lot for a lot of these projects to have that aspect. So this is pretty important, I think, for Hedera to actually be at SIBOS, just because it already has that sort of aspect to it in terms of ISO 20022. Now, people would like to say, though, as a kind of rebuttal, right? This year's SIBOS is going to have an aspect of AI. What does Hedera know about that? Well, we've seen quite recently Hedera have quite a big focus when it comes to that. And combined with the fact that Hedera Hashgraph doesn't use traditional blockchain technology, it uses something called a directed acyclic graph, it actually brings a new flavor, so to speak, right? It brings a new seasoning to this event just because a lot of Hedera's competitors, they're going to be using traditional blockchain technology, but that's like too common nowadays. Like too many projects out there that have an aspect of blockchain technology, they're already focused on AI. But what stands out just automatically? it's something like Hedera, just because, again, Hedera Hashgraph doesn't use traditional blockchain technology. It just automatically stands out. It's like, for instance, imagine if everyone was using, I guess, a Toyota, and then suddenly someone comes in and uses a Nissan. It's completely different, right? I mean, yes, at the end of the day, it is a car, but it's just different. So it's just kind of like that when it comes to Hedera. Hedera has been to a previous Cybos before. To my understanding, they even went to the one last year in Frankfurt in Germany. So again, they have done this before. It wouldn't be the first time, but again, this year, the aspect of AI, we see a lot of it trickle, from the world of stocks, right? In terms of the vibe when it comes to that. So again, I think this year it could matter a lot when it comes to Hedera in terms of really putting themselves out there because, again, Hedera, it's not the most mainstream project of all time, but again, events like this do help build kind of the notoriety and recognizability when it comes to Hedera, which matters a lot, right? Because Hedera is focused on enterprise adoption. A lot of people from very massive enterprises, they're going to be attending Cybos. So if they hear more about Hedera, if they know what's kind of going on when it comes to it, I think the better it is naturally when it comes to Hedera. Hedera's governing council has the likes of Google, Mondelez. We take a look at, something like Dell Technologies, FedEx even, and many others. They're part of the Hedera governing council. Might I add also even McLaren, which joined not too long ago. So again, that type of stuff eventually could matter when it comes to Hedera. That's just the way to take a look at it. May not matter too much right now because we take a look at HBAR. Hasn't really done much when it comes to the price ever since my last video. Still at around a slightly under $3 billion market cap. But at the same time, Hedera's at least trying, in my opinion, right? They're trying to go to these events. They're trying to improve. So I guess I can't really complain about that because the whole market overall isn't doing the best. HBAR, okay, yeah, it's not doing the best, but it's really nothing unusual. It's kind of like the usual, if anything, that a altcoin isn't doing the best as of right now. But is a project doing bad really a bad thing, though? I know it may sound kind of counterintuitive, at least personally for me at first glance, but the way I take a look at it is HBAR is so low. We're taking a look at a project here which literally is at a market cap, right? That we once saw back in early 2021. We gotta let that sink in. These are levels we pretty much saw like over 5 years ago. And we're seeing it right now in 2026. Let's think about this. Let's just think about how HBAR in January of last year was at around a 13 billion market cap. I've mentioned this before, but we have to consider we're approximately 4 times away from that. We've already seen that before, by the way. If Bitcoin went back to January of 2025 levels, it's not 4 times away. HBAR is, though. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but that's just from what I've noticed when it comes to the chart. That's kind of it. But you know what? When it comes to HBAR, if it could go back there, which we've already seen it reach before, I guess it wouldn't really surprise me, but we'll wait and see. And when will it happen? I have no idea. I can't control when the market recovers. There's no way. I don't have a magic crystal ball to kind of figure this out or whatever. No, there's just no way. I'm just one person. There's over 600 million owners, by the way, when it comes to this space overall. I'm just one person. I can't do anything. I'm just waiting. Now, if I'm waiting or I'm not, it wouldn't affect the market in any sort of way. But I feel like I just kind of want to be a part of the roller coaster. That's it. I don't have to, though. It's purely voluntary on my part, but I just kind of feel like it. I'm still dollar cost averaging once a month as of right now, approximately. But that's just kind of it. I mean, other than that, I'm just holding and waiting. There's really nothing else I can do beyond that. But the way you take a look at it is that whether or not I'm holding, the market, first of all, wouldn't care, right? But I would care personally. Just because the way I view it is, had I been caring about this space, like let's say had I cared about Bitcoin like 10 years ago or whatever, would it still have done its thing with or without me? Yeah, but I wasn't caring about this 10 years ago. So then naturally, the journey happened and that was it, right? I wasn't, holding or anything. But of course, I can't go back in the past, which is why I kind of feel like, okay, maybe the market's down as of right now, but maybe what happens if it hypothetically recovers? That's just what I'm wondering. And by me holding or by me not holding, I'm still going to have to continue on with my journey anyways, right? I'm still going to have to continue on with 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, and all this and so on. So I feel like, okay, whether I'm holding or I'm not, I mean, my journey still goes on. So I just kind of feel like holding and waiting while I continue on with my journey. That's kind of it. But again, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. It's been a pretty quick update to kind of showcase that, you know what, Hedera, they're planning to attend yet another Cybos, this time in Miami, which I found pretty impressive. And I think it could have profound impacts when it comes to Hedera in terms of creating more attention when it comes to it. It doesn't mean it will affect the price, though. I don't think it will. But it's going to affect like maybe potential partnerships or collaborations. I think it's going to matter for more of that aspect, right? But again, those aspects may not matter right now, but it could hypothetically matter later on if the market were to recover. So that's just kind of what I'm thinking about as of right now, but I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward. I want to say thank you so much for watching.